Hello and welcome back. And first an apology, no, not for the shirt, but for the team of men who are digging the road up outside with pneumatic drills. So if you do hear any weird noises, I do apologise. Today, weird noises could be in this sort of video. I've got a couple of products here, one of which I'm quite hopeful. It follows on from our recent chat about saxophone microphones. Now, if you remember, we clipped on some wired mics to saxophones, and while one of them actually sounded quite nice, I thought, the big snag is that clipping a microphone onto an instrument that has flappy bits that players whack with their fingers. Now, fair enough, some people have a very gentle technique and the clacky bits are quite small. Others are very percussive, you know, a bit like flipping the switch on a Hammond organ. You know, it adds a sort of percussive element to each sound, but in a very unattractive way as opposed to the organ. So I wondered if these wireless systems are going to be any better. And that's what we're going to discover today. Now, need to explain wireless systems a bit. You know, my mantra has always been, having done radio microphones since 30 years, perhaps even a bit more, is that the most expensive and sophisticated radio mic system is nearly as good as a £10 XLR cable. And that's not a joke, it's true. Radio microphones will cause you trouble. They just do. Now, the snag that is the killer for most people is interference. Loads of the radio mic systems have got a little button that you push and it scans the ether for other radio mic signals or interference signals from TV transmitters. It sort of blocks them out and says, this frequency's clear. Well, yeah, it is, during your sound check. But what happens when the DJ rocks up into the club next door, where he's going from his microphone to his equipment about a metre away? He could use a cable, but he doesn't. He uses a radio mic. If you've got a theatre in your town, well, you know, most shows now have got loads of radio mics, and they've also got loads of in-ear monitors, and they gobble up available frequencies. Now, if you're watching in the UK, we have very specific frequencies we can use. We use some frequencies up in channel 70. There's not very many, and they're free to use. Free to use also means that everybody uses them. So the chances of a channel 70 frequency being interference free are a bit slim. The saving grace with this type thing is that very often the transmitter is quite close to the receiver, and hopefully any interference will be much, much weaker. So unless you walk into one of those magic black holes where the radio frequency energy disappears, you're going to get left with the DJ next door. But that doesn't happen too often when you've got very short distances. If you put the receiver and transmitter more than 5 metres away, you're increasing the chance of interference from something else. And the worst thing, of course, is your signal gets replaced by something else, and the something else might not be quite the same as your sax. That's channel 70 for you. We do have access to channel 38, which is another TV band. And in channel 38, you have to pay a small license fee and you can use far more frequencies. So the chances are you can find empty ones, unless you live in the big cities or the very large towns with a busy sort of entertainment scene. So that's risky. Channel 38. What else can you do? Well, you do have access to other TV channel frequencies that are not in use in your area through Ofcom. There's a licensed category called PMSE, Program Making and Special Events. And they're sort of allocated on a one-off thing. So you go into a certain town, you can look on an Ofcom site, you can find frequencies that might be available with nobody on them, and you sort of book them, and you pay them some money per use. That's how the system works. It's not, of course, how people use it. What happens in practice is that people just buy radio mic systems, plug them in and use them. if you've got a TV channel active on the same frequency as your radio mic system, you haven't got hope, because it's a nasty digital sort of buzzsaw type sound. It's horrible, and it will wipe you out because it's meant to be very strong. So what you have to do is look for spaces between. Now, some of these things will work on frequencies that you could license, but it's expensive, so most people don't bother. So that's all I've really got to say on the subject of licensing. It is tricky to organise, and many people in total ignorance just turn up, turn on the thing they bought on Amazon and use it. And technically that's illegal. It's also very, very, very low power, and it's very unlikely you'll cause interference to ITV or BBC, so it is not something that is actively policed. But you should be aware that certain venues sort of have a frequency policeman on their staff who goes round and scrutinises the frequencies that you're using and says, you can't use that. Technically, they're right, but you could if you did the proper licence. Most people, I fear, don't. The other thing with these is cost. There's a video I watched on YouTube recently talking about sort of clip-on wireless systems for saxophones, where the guy was saying, yeah, you know, this one's only £700 and this one's £800. Well, you know, many people have got a saxophone that they didn't pay £800 for. So clipping one of these things onto it at a cost of £600, £700, £800, that's tricky. So are these ones, which both cost me less than 50 quid, any good? That's what we're going to look at today. I've got the receiver plugged into the interface, just jammed straight in the jack socket. Let's have a look and see. Everything appears to be okay. Pretty positive so far. No idea what it sounds like, but in actual fact, look, that's solid. What's it like just the keys? Let's just see them on their own. Bit of a bass line for the next one, isn't it? So it is solid. But sometimes when they're solid like that and they don't wobble and fall off, it also means they're extremely, well, the ones we tried before were extremely prone to the bangs of saxophone life. It's okay. So that's that one. That wasn't what I expected at all. The actual percussive sounds that were so bad on those two cabled ones we tried last week were missing. It's very quiet. It grips the saxophone really nicely. It doesn't fall off. It's pretty solid. And audio-wise, it's actually quite good. And this is the cheapest of the two. I think it was advertised at 27 quid. By the time it got here, with the taxes and things, it's about 35, something like that. So 35 quid, I expected it to be rubbish, I'll be honest. And it wasn't. My particular style of sax playing as well is very quiet and very breathy. And that's quite difficult to record properly, you know. Going for it big time, yeah, okay, I think they all do a reasonable job because it's loud. But this was actually okay. This is the listing, so you can see exactly how it was described. A few spelling mistakes in there. But essentially, all in all, the thing is as good as the advert says it is, which was a bit odd. Anyway, let's move on to the next one that I did have high hopes for, and let's see if that one works too. So this is the second one. The only snag is I was just trying to grab off AliExpress the advert, and the people I bought it off don't sell it anymore. Now, I'm sure that with a bit of searching I can find it somewhere else, but at the moment I can't buy another one of these if this turns out to be really good, which is really annoying. So what we got in the box? So pretty much the same as the other one, really. USB cable, which is good, I suppose, because it means you don't have to actually buy batteries. Although I've got plenty of batteries. What we get with this one is a XLR fitted sax end, so it's got a female XLR on the end. No sticky out antennas, little control panel. 571.2 it comes out of the box on. No other sort of information. There's a battery meter on it. Realistically, a little thing says channel plus, volume plus, so you've got a bit of adjustment on there. So I'll have a look and see how that works. This is a receiver, XLR male on one end, so it'll go straight into my interface, I hope. In real terms, what we got? An RF meter, an AF and RF LED indicator. So that looks hopeful. Comes with these two things. Right angle, 1/4 inch jack to XLR female, and 1/4 inch jack to XLR male. So you could actually connect this to, you know, if you're a keyboard player, you know, you've got one of those key guitar things, you know, where you wander about on stage with a battery operated keyboard. That would plug into that, or any other sort of mobile gizmo that's got a 1/4 inch jack. So that's a bit interesting. Useful, I guess. Probably not that often, but it's useful. That really just gets you from the XLR that I've got plugged into the interface, and it just converts it so you can plug it into a guitar amp or something like that, I guess. Microphone wise, well, what we've got is an XLR fitted mic. Very thin gooseneck with a little windshield on the end. What's the mic look like inside? Little tiny. Oh, and it actually does. I would have probably got that wrong because it's not easy to see which way it faces, but it's really small. So once you've got the windshield on it, it's very difficult to know which way it goes. I suppose you have to do it by feel. It also rotates at the bottom. So the XLR has got 3 positions there. So let's... Clearly works. Right, let's stick it on the sax and see what we get. I'm going to stop it there because, frankly, that was dire. I mean, one, the key clicks that we spoke about were awful. I mean, you couldn't use that. I mean, can you imagine even playing loud, that clunking and banging? It was just horrible. Absolutely no use whatsoever as far as I can see. So probably a good thing that they've run out and they haven't got any more to sell, because don't buy one of these things because it's awful. Did you also notice the very strange modulation effect? It wasn't level dependent. The levels going to the preamp were well under control, but it had that strange warbling sound. So not only is it mechanically useless, it's electronically suspect as well, because I mean it's not supposed to do that. You know, play a note on a saxophone, you sort of hear almost like 2 notes. Nah, nasty product. Well, I think that's probably enough for today. Oh, one thing, did you notice that weirdness with the display? To the naked eye, the display looks perfectly normal. To the camera, there are digits missing. There aren't. I mean, when you look at it, that display is perfectly normal. But to my camera, it's not. So all in all, a pretty poor product. So avoid your money on this one. The other one, on the other hand, I think I might buy some more of those because they're actually quite nice. See you on the next video, where I think we're going to look at a matched set of AKG 451s. Not the originals that I love, but the sort of reissued ones, you know, the ones where the capsule doesn't come unscrewed. I think we're going to have a look at that. Have a look at what's in the box and see how nice they are. Anyway, see you soon. Look after yourselves. Take care.